DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
All right, we are back for show number 2 tonight. This is the one you've been waiting for. Why have you been waiting for? Because this is our chance to get one-on-one with BSR. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening, John.
This is something we haven't really dug into music and talked music for a little while, and we've had a couple. TJ mentioned, hey, you should do this, and it's like, we should, because
all right,
it's just something that I've been kind of. And the topic I wanted to get into tonight was we're going to start off kind of talking about taking a musical journey, because we've talked a little about this, and as I've been doing I've done a couple of smaller events here recently, and it's really kind of become attractive to me, and I'll get back into that a little bit later. But Brian, what I wanted to kind of start this off with, and what started me thinking about this is we had talked. Probably about a year ago or so, the first time you introduced me to the concept of the gentleman who was playing at the Loft in New York and kind of started. Yeah. So for those who didn't catch that, kind of give us a lowdown of what that was, and then I'll come in with the questions and such for what was appealing to that and how I tied that in.
Well, a quick explanation is we're talking about David Mancuso in the Loft. This was. Okay, back in like the late 60s, New York was in rough shape, early 70s. So it was okay. It was perfectly legal to have what they called rent parties. So you would have parties at your apartment or wherever you were staying to raise money to pay the rent. This was a legal thing to do because people were, financially in rough shape, and there was a lot of artists there and they couldn't make their rent. So they went ahead and said, yeah, you can go ahead and do this. So David Mancuso did this loft concept, basically in his home, where he would do an invite-only party and bring people in, and it wasn't just anybody. You had to be somebody to go there, and you had to be invited specifically. It was anyone from rock stars to artists to just people who were on the scene. And instead of maybe doing a lot of what we would consider club style stuff and dance style stuff, he would just play tunes for people and kind of take them on a musical journey, if you will.
Yeah.
And a lot of it wasn't particularly popular stuff. Most of it wasn't. Most of it was kind of just things he had discovered as an audiophile that he liked and would play for people. So he did this for a long time, and he was kind of the person who inspired a lot of the other clubs that would, later on pop up in New York and that whole exclusive invite-only concept of a club. But yeah, he was, most of the time he was spinning the tunes there. And again, it was less about kind of playing familiar stuff and more about playing kind of just neat stuff that they would enjoy.
Right.
So.
And that's really what I was kind of thinking about. Again, I've done a couple of small events here where we've been able to take people on a musical journey because we weren't there for dancing. It was basically there, as an example, this past weekend with a 50th class reunion. Just there for background music. That's what it was all about. And it wasn't even to just play to that crowd because it was a public bar setting. But right. To play something that would take people on a little, once in a while, having them remember something back and forth and could work through some different and deeper tracks in the library.
Yeah.
And I really found that kind of actually fun to do because there's no way we'd be able to play. And I was thinking to myself is, it's like I'm enjoying this because I haven't had that ability to go deep into the songs and such since probably the slow nights in the bar.
Right.
And those nights, basically it's you, the bartender or two, and a couple of clients, so you can basically do almost anything you want.
Right.
When we're doing weddings or the mobile events and such, I mean, is that pretty much just something that we have to put to the side because we're expected to play the big hitters and the big bangers?
Not always. I mean, it's going to depend. Sometimes, yeah, you just have to do what you got to do. But I think there are times when the opportunity does show itself and you can run with it and have fun with it. And I've seen people do it, not me, not talking about myself personally, but I've seen other DJs do this recently where they hop on a genre and, I'm looking at this, like for instance, I talked a while back about at these quinceañeras that every DJ that I've seen doing these quinceañeras does a freestyle set. And I don't know what you know about freestyle. It's your Stevie B, your Trinier, your Shannon, that stuff, kind of electro, dance, whatever. It's a genre.
Yeah.
But it's a genre that the Latin culture really enjoys, even though a lot of it's even Italian. They'll go on these freestyle sets that are really cool. And of course, they're playing music that's familiar. But, when I find that I can do that musical journey thing, believe it or not, is at car shows.
Sure.
Because usually when I go to a car show, there's a DJ there. And he's been the same DJ who's been there for years and years and years. And this guy is playing the same old tired ass Buddy Holly, Bill Haley in the comments, Elvis Presley bullshit. And the crowd's like, okay, this is what we need to hear at car shows. And the guy looks out there, he usually got 20 years on me. Or so. He looks like he does anyway. And he looks out in the crowd and he says, okay, there's a 57 Nomad, there's a 55 Crown Vic, there's all these 50s cars. This is what we need to play. This is going to be appropriate. When I look out into a bunch of cars, I think different. I don't think about that. I think about who's there. Is everybody there 60 years old or 55 years old? No, they're not. Even if they are 55 or younger, that wasn't their experience. Their experience wasn't driving around in a 50s Chevy listening to Bill Haley in the comments.
Right.
Their experience in the 70s was driving around in a 56 Chevy that they paid $1,500 for, and they were listening to Ted Nugent.
Yep.
That was their experience. So I take that and I think, yeah, this is the tune I got to play. I'm looking right at a 71 Nova. Somebody could have easily bought this car for $400 in 1979, and maybe they were cranking up Journey because that was what was hot, or Supertramp, or Fleetwood Mac, or whatever the case might be. I'm going further in than the 1950s and early 60s, which is what every car show DJ seems to want to do. And when I do it, it blows people's minds. I'm playing Heart. I'm playing 80s rock. Yeah. I'm doing Bob Seger. I'm doing things that these other guys just won't do. They can't see past. This car was built in 1958. They can't see past that. So that's when I feel like I can really do that musical journey thing without being the center of attention. I mean, I don't like that. I like being in the background and doing it. I don't want to be the focal point when I'm doing this. I want to be, in the car showcase, it's perfect. I just want to be the one there setting this mood that no one expected anyone to set. That's fun to me. I enjoy that. So
setting that mood, that could, you mentioned car shows, of course, that could extend to a lot of different events. And I really think that an area in which I'm hearing more DJs who are a little bit older than us, we're going to say, are doing. It seems that it's kind of this circle of life thing. We did backyard parties, then we got into the weddings, and we did the weddings and such. And now, as weddings are kind of teetering, or kind of slowing down at the end of our careers, now they're finding themselves doing backyard parties in retirement homes.
Yeah.
But that concept of being able to play and taking them into places, unexpected places, surprises. We've talked about that numerous times. fits into that particular situation incredibly well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I will throw out there now, there are people out there, and I'm not judging anyone, but there are folks out there who are doing this who don't have maybe the type of music knowledge that I have. I do pretty well with that. I don't do a lot of things well, but that I feel like I do well. So if I'm doing something like a car show or whatever, just that's just the example I'm throwing out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm setting a mood, but I can also throw stuff out there from the era that maybe just a few people know. I can do the unfamiliar is what I'm trying to say. Someone there's going to know it, but it fits. And now I've almost given them this brand new thing to be nostalgic about. They didn't know about it in the first place, but now they're thinking about it. Okay, this is my car show song now.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard this anywhere else. Who is this? What is this? I like this. That's fun. That's turning people on to do stuff. That's being the tastemaker. And that's something that we're not able to do very often as mobile DJs. We kind of have to play to them and give them what they want before they can even ask for it. That's what makes us good.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. But in these cases, yeah, you can kind of be the tastemaker, I think. I think about the programming that I hear on SiriusXM Studio 54 radio. Now, I can flip on classic vinyl and I can flip on those channels. And I'm hearing the same frickin' Steve Miller Band songs over and over again. I can flip on Yacht Rock. And every other song is Steely Dan, without fail. Or it's got features of Michael McDonald somewhere in the vocals.
Yep.
It's not like I have this amazing, like, telepathic DJ thing. I just know that's what they're gonna play. No surprises at all, not a one. Never gonna hear anything on there that I've never heard, or is so embedded in my head that it's just I guess rhetoric. It's musical rhetoric to me. I've heard this. I know it. You don't even have to play the song. I can play it in my head.
Yeah.
But and people are saying how they love the Steve Miller Band in the room, and I don't dislike Steve Miller, but if I never had to hear the Joker ever again, if somebody said to me, "Look, you're never going to hear that song again. Just we're going to block it from your life," I would be like, "That's totally cool. You never have to play that song for me again. I've heard it. Some call me Maurice and the stupid whistle and all that crap. Never again. I'm done with Steve Miller."
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, I just heard all this stuff in every bar and everything else, but there are other artists that I haven't heard everything that they've done.
Yeah. As
much as I like the Rolling Stones, I don't think I've heard every Rolling Stones song. There are still surprises out there that I'll hear once. What is that? That's the Stones. It sounds like the Stones. That's kind of cool. Steve Miller Band, that'll never happen. I've heard it. I know it. No surprises. So I don't even know where I was going with that. I just went off on a rant. But I guess what I was getting at is on Studio 54 radio, the reason I like this so well is because I will hear things on that station I have never heard before.
Mm-hmm.
They totally fit everything that I know and I like. But it's like, whoa, what is that? And I'll have to look it up. And I usually end up buying it. And when I say buying it, I don't mean the digital download. I mean buy it. Like I go on Discogs and I buy the 12-inch. It's part of the collection. It's part of the curated archives that I'm putting together for no one who's going to care when I'm dead. But it's there. It's there.
The harsh reality of the life of a DJ.
It's so sad. I think about, wow, when I die, somebody's going to get all this stuff, but no one's going to want any of it. Nobody in my family, anyway. No one's going to want this stuff. No one's going to care. My kid doesn't care. Blanca doesn't care. My nieces and nephews definitely don't
care.
It's just nobody cares. Nobody cares. But at any rate, yeah, I think that's cool. I think it's cool to be able to that journey thing. That the taking people. A lot of it's a memory lane thing. That's something that I'm talking about with the car show. But there are other ways to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to particularly do it that way. Certain music means certain things to certain people. There are songs that I have heard over and over and over again, and I never cared for him much at all. And then I was in that certain situation where I heard it, and I was around that person, and that thing was happening, and all of a sudden, hey, that's a cool tune. By association, now I love it. I think we can do this sometimes for people. I don't know if you can relate to what I'm talking about.
Oh, certainly. As an example, Van Halen is a group that in the early Van Halen time, I really wasn't into Van Halen. I didn't care for it, but the right situation with the right people, and all of a sudden it's like, this is kind of. And then as time goes on, you really develop an appreciation for it.
Yeah. I mean, the song "Sit Down," the song "Black Magic Woman" by Santana, which, by the way, was originally a Fleetwood Mac song, believe it or not. Can you picture Fleetwood Mac doing Black Magic Woman? That was their tune. They wrote it. But anyway, the dog is just pacing back.
Okay. I was going to say, I was wondering if you had a guest in, a live studio guest. And
nobody cares, man. I'm down here trying to shoot videos. It's been cycles going up and down, in and out, water. Forget it. You know what? I just do what I can do down here. It's like I need to get my own little storefront somewhere where everybody leaves me alone.
Mm-hmm.
They leave me alone so much I get lonely. So I can't wait. But anyway, Black Magic Woman, Santana. I've been listening to that song my entire life because I think it came out the year I was born, and you hear it, and I associate it with older guys with beards, because that's who I remember enjoying it when I was young. Those kind of people in the neighborhood or whatever. And I went to Australia in 2001, and this woman was stunning. She was half Swedish, half Chinese, raised in Sweden, but had lived in Australia for a very long time. Just exquisite. And this was her tune. So now whenever I think of that song, I don't think of the old guy in a beard. I think of the super hot exotic chick in Australia who really liked the song. So by association, I've changed my perception of the song.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It took me on that journey. But yeah, I regress.
Tony, we're just kind of chatting music and such, and the idea of taking people on a musical journey. Basically, something we can't do at a lot of our weddings. At our wedding, once you get that dance floor going, they want you to just basically, bang, 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 and hit them with the big guns and keep them on the dance floor. High school dances, you're playing a very limited. You're not taking them on a musical journey and having some fun, sharing an experience. And yet, the interesting part about that is that I've talked to some younger couples about their wedding day, and we were talking about, what's some of the things you want, and I've actually had them. They're saying, we really don't care if the guests dance or not. We just really want to create an atmosphere.
Just about, yeah.
And I wonder if that's going to be kind of rearing its head more, for lack of a better way to describe it. That the idea of creating an atmosphere of the couple, and 10 years ago I had a couple of weddings over the years, but I haven't had as many people kind of talking about that as I have in the last probably 2 years.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I did a wedding 2 weeks ago. When Stevie was doing photo booth, I was doing the wedding itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the dinner set, I played the cocktail set, I did the ceremony, all this stuff. It all ran really long, and I was getting worried because it was approaching like 9:30, and we were done at 11:15. Like, they're not going to get a lot of time for dancing, We made it happen. We kind of kicked the hole in the butt and made it happen. And boy, they went strong for an hour, like really hard. And they were done.
Yeah.
They were done. They didn't leave. And they were still coming up to me and talking to me, telling me what a great job they were having, or what a great job I did and what a great time they were having. But they were done dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a party for her side of the family about a year and a half ago. It was the same thing. Same thing. About an hour strong, and they were done, and they hung out and they just wanted to listen to tunes.
Yeah.
And I went from playing, oh, geez, your typical stuff, and I was doing everything from Ludacris to, you know, uh, Pharrell to whatever, to David Allan Coe.
Sure.
It didn't matter anymore. And they were enjoying it, but they weren't dancing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get it in our heads that they must dance to have a good time. We must dance. Not always the case. As long as they're not, I've said this before, as long as they're not sitting there like this with their arms folded, staring at you, waiting for you to do something and entertain them, you're okay. If they're engaged in conversation or doing other things, even at the bar having drinks and talking and laughing, as long as they're there and they're enjoying themselves, it doesn't really matter whether they're dancing or not.
For sure.
There is a point where you feel like you want to have that dance floor for a minute because you want the photographer to get some pictures. You want them to have a bit of a dance. But when it's over, it's over. That's it. And sometimes it's really hard to get it back. As long as they're sticking around, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the opportunities, I think, where you can do those musical journeys with them too. You can look out and you can kind of see who's there, what the age groups are, and play some stuff that maybe you wouldn't normally play. Because you've got that opportunity just to kind of create atmosphere, opposed to create dance floor.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good way to say it, is the idea of creating that atmosphere with the music as opposed to the dance floor.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't challenging, I don't think is the word I would use to describe it, but it's that variety that from the DJ side of it, it's like kind of refreshing to be able to say, hey, you know what, I can do this, and I haven't heard that song in a while.
Yeah.
Hey, this song's, and you're watching and you get the crowd and you see people, chair dancing, butt dancing, whatever you want to refer to it as, where they're at their seat and they're kind of bebopping along, and you can see that they're enjoying their time together.
It could even spark conversation. This is something a lot of people are overlooking when we're talking about a wedding situation. We're not particularly being tastemakers here, but if I were to throw on a Sinatra track at 11 o'clock at a party like this, Dad could be sitting there. And I mentioned Sinatra because I know that, it's Uncle in this case. It was Dad at the first wedding. It's Uncle in this wedding. Uncle's a huge Sinatra fan.
Yeah.
So I know he's saying to himself, the good old days. Let me tell you about 1962 in Chicago when I was doing this. And we were running around with that guy. Yeah, you know him. Yeah, he married your aunt. Well, here, these kind of things happen just because you played the right tune.
Yeah.
There are tons of different conversations happening. If you have 150 people in an event, I mean, you've at least got 75 different conversations. Well, you get maximum 75 different conversations going on if individuals are talking to each other. But you have several different conversations. You can't possibly know what's happening in all of them. But one thing that you can do is do inspire. And it's a lot of reminiscent weddings because it's family stuff. You're going to have that. Or somebody, oh, God, yeah, Dad loves this stuff. Remember that time Dad took us on that trip?
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening out there. As long as they're engaging, talking, and not just staring at you, I think you're doing all right.
You make a good point with that some of the songs that they're going to engage in a different manner than the dance floor. And that you mentioned the wedding and, Dad, the trip, what have you. And I just, so many times I've looked at that request list and it's like, okay, especially if I haven't had time to sit down with him and ask the questions as far as, so why is this song on the list kind of thing? Which, if you don't do that, I highly recommend you do. But I remember many times looking at that list and say, God, this list has got a bunch of crap on it. And
they're not going to dance to this.
They're not going to dance to this. So you wouldn't do anything with it. And then you get halfway through and somebody's like, hey, can you play da-da-da? It's like, well, it's not a really good dancing song. No one's going to get out there and dance to David Allan Coe. Oh, but it's Dad's favorite song. Okay.
Right.
No, I got that. But Dad and his buddies get out and they are together and they get their beer in one hand and they sing along at the top of the lungs. Oh, so there's more to it.
Or they treat it like Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
Precisely.
You're acting it out or whatever,
And
of course, David Allan Coe's one you got to be careful with. You never know what that guy's going to say.
Yeah.
So know your material before you play it, guys.
Yeah, precisely.
I'm just saying, be careful with that guy.
He's got a little bit there, but
yeah.
The idea is that I guess we sometimes have fixated so much on our DJing to fill the dance floor, and just not enough on that creating that atmosphere. And having some things
yeah.
that bring those memories, to people.
Sure. Or you create them. I mean, you can do that as well with what you're playing. It's some people might look at it as a time capsule. Oh, here we go. Here's a reminisce thing. Other people may are hearing the song for the first time. Maybe they're talking to that cute Chinese Swedish girl, and they're now associating the Tony Bennett song with her. So now they've got a brand new perspective on that track. You don't know what's going on out there. You can do this during your cocktails. You can do this during dinner, and you can do it when they're done dancing. Just because they're not dancing anymore doesn't mean they're done having a party. And it's really hard to get that through our heads as DJs. But I really do believe that this is a really great argument for people to look beyond the dance floor a little bit and think about music. Not because I've had this conversation with so many people since I started doing the social media thing. I'll bring up an artist, any artist, it doesn't matter who. I'll bring up Eagles or Fleetwood Mac, or I'll bring up Hall & Oates, or I'll bring up anybody. And they'll be like, well, I don't really know why I really got to know this, because it doesn't really, my customers don't need it. It's not a dance floor thing. Come on. Dancing is a byproduct of what we do.
Yeah.
We're not party clowns, we're not, I don't want to be a motivator. I want to, that's part of the job, but that's not all I want to do. I want to spin tunes. I want to spin tunes for people, and I want them to enjoy the tunes that I'm spinning. Particularly the dancing stuff is rhetoric. They all know it, but when you jump into these chill times, it's very different. You can do all kinds of fun stuff, or different versions of songs they've never heard before.
Right. Vitamin
String Quartet, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I love doing that track during dinner because someone always notices. Holy crap, that's Nirvana. Yeah, but no one's upset. That is so cool. I love it. What is that? That's cool. And in the meantime, their grandma might be sitting there saying, hey, this is a really catchy song. And she don't know the Nirvana version. She just thinks this is really catchy and she'd like to have it. So, I don't know.
Just checking the chat room stuff here.
Yeah, I'm looking at them too.
Yeah. So another area I wanted to just talk about a little bit was we talked about dinner music and such as the time, or the cocktail hour is the time to do some things. We've given some suggestions to that. But I had someone the other day, probably 2 weeks ago, ask about songs for the money dance. Basically, up here we call it a dollar dance, but they were like, what do you play? Because they hadn't really done a dollar dance before.
Yeah.
And I thought, that might be a kind of a fun, and I don't think, Brian, we've talked about a dollar dance per se.
For some reason, every time I do money dance, I play Chicago's You're the Inspiration. I don't know why, but I do. And I think it's because I wouldn't choose it for an open dance song, but people know it. So I always do that one. I don't know why. And like Atlantic Star Always was a huge tune to play when I first started DJing for like a slow song or a mixer or whatever. I know people know it. I throw it in. I play the throwaway tracks, the throwaway slow songs that I don't really fit anywhere else. Stuck on You by Lionel Richie. Things like that, I guess, is what I play. Doesn't matter what you play. They're going to do the dollar dance regardless. So it doesn't really matter. Just throw something out there.
Yeah, that's one area when I was training DJs, and we'd get to that point, and I had some suggested songs that they could use for that. And some of them would just basically go and keep a textbook and go through. And then there were some that would go and try. And I remember one DJ, this is just as the song Remember When came out from Alan Jackson. And she was using this as one of her dollar dance because she loved the song. And it's like, well, I appreciate that you enjoy the song, but I don't know if the lyrics of Remember When would really fit in a dollar dance.
I played at weddings.
Oh yeah, I would too. As in maybe obviously first dance, I've had that a few times, but as a couples
Anniversary
dance, yep, exactly, it fits in there. But dollar dance is like, yeah, I try not to get into the suggestive, overly mushy, stuck on you. Perfect example of one that I like to use was A Whole New World from the Aladdin song. Yeah,
yeah, that's fine.
just something
That Phoebe Bryson thing, that was him, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, just something that isn't too mushy.
It's interesting talking about Stuck on You by Lionel Richie. I've mentioned this before. This is the only song that was ever number one on the pop chart, country chart, and the R&B chart. That's insanity.
Yeah.
That song hit number one on every one of those charts.
Yeah, that just, it's tough enough to have an artist in their career hit multiple charts like that.
Number ones on multiple charts. That's
the same song.
Summer of 1984. Yeah.
Just looking at some of the song.
Yeah, any of that throwaway stuff. I mean, Jimmy in the Room was talking about Always and Forever by Heatwave, and
he mentioned the Spandau
Ballet True.
Ballet True earlier. I just, for some reason, that song is just, I like that song, and I just like to drop that in.
I do too, but I get really worried about some of the lyrics in the song.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't care. I did a wedding several years ago. I remember I got this request list and the songs they wanted for their wedding. And I'm reading the list, and it's Careless Whisper, it's Time After Time, it's True. It's all these breakup songs. And I'm like, are you shitting me for your wedding?
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't care. We just want to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. They have no idea. Those are breakup songs? Really?
Really? Huh. Really? I had a dad come up to me. Oh, geez, when was this? This was the barn wedding I did. And the one for Dave. And I remember the bride specifically telling me, if Dad wants anything, do it, because Dad's helping pay for it. Make sure Dad's taken care of. And Dad was like 7 feet tall. He's, one of those, I don't know, he was like a freaking Mark Farrell looking guy, just a larger than life, nice looking guy,
Sure.
And he comes up and he says, I need you to play me a song. I'm like, all right, no problem. You Lost That Love and Feeling, Righteous Brothers. Well, I'm happy to play it for you. I just don't want to rain on the kids' parade tonight. Well, no, not now. They're dancing, but when the opportunity comes. I said, that's not what I mean. He said, what? I said, it's a breakup song. Like, oh my gosh, it is. I'm like, yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to jinx it. How about we do one chain medley? He's like, oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out to me. It may not have mattered. I don't know, but I just try to point those things out to people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the True song by Spandau Ballet, with a pill in my hand and a thrill on my tongue. I mean, those are just things that I think about that go through my brain before I put that track on. I don't know. And I know what the Spandau Ballet is, too. And that's creepy. Do you know what the Spandau Ballet is?
No, that one you're going to have to fill me in on.
Well, the story I heard, and this is, I never Googled this. I just heard this a long time ago. It has to do with one of the concentration camps in World War II. Spandau was apparently a camp.
Okay.
And the Spandau Ballet was the way that the people would move in the gas chambers as they were dying. They called it the Spandau Ballet. Yeah. So for that reason alone, it's kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds beautiful. It rolls off the tongue. Spandau Ballet.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But that's, yeah. There were all kinds of bands like that from England, especially, who had these like political undertones and with like Joy Division was supposed to be, Joy Division.
Yep, I've heard of it.
Joy Division is what became New Order. Joy Division was the Nazi division of prostitutes for the SS soldiers. That was the Joy Division. So yeah, the wedding. Come on, I don't know who knows this stuff. I don't know who doesn't. I don't care. I mean, personally, you can't offend me. You can't upset me. I just know other people are easily upset and offended, and I just don't want to upset or offend anybody. So I try to be very careful about my selections for that reason. So,
how many barn weddings would you say you'll do by the time you retire?
too many. But I hope it's kind of like country design, like the country decor stuff they were doing in the 80s, where it just went away. Remember the crafts?
Yeah.
Crafts was a big thing. And crafts are gone now. Nobody wants crafts in their house. I'm hoping that's like the barn wedding is like the craft decor of the 80s.
The macrame and
you're just like you're rocking out to the latest Anne Marie track while you're walking through the house. I'm hoping that's going away. I hope it ends. And I don't no offense to anybody who bought a barn to do this, because I know people who have done it and they're doing very well with it. But
sure.
all things should come to an end.
That's a hard to say with that trend, if they will come to an end, or if this next generation coming up who is looking for. I just wrote an article today for the newspaper talking about the millennial generation that's coming up and is moving into that marrying age, and the way they have that interest in value and looking for a better return on their investment, whether that's their financial or time investment, then to a point than even we did, because some of them, their starting job is a hourly wage that wasn't what it was when we came out of college and came out of high school.
Yeah, a lot of the kids in my experience just still have mom and dad pay for it.
Yeah,
gigs.
There certainly is some of that.
Unless they've made it. I see the group that they've made it and they're taking care of their own business. I've also seen the group that is nowhere near making it, and mom and dad are still paying the bill.
Yeah.
So I've seen both.
Yeah.
Either way, it's nice. I haven't seen anybody really try to cut a lot of corners. I mean, here anyway. And they may be, but I just haven't seen it. And I don't know that the barn weddings are any less expensive than going to a hall. In fact, they're probably more. These places don't have vacancies. They're busy. They're making money. And then they're bringing in usually catering from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I've never seen crap catering at a barn wedding.
We had one last summer, and they had a barbecue place, Famous Dave's. I don't know if you have Famous Dave's, but yeah,
we have Famous Dave's here.
This little Famous Dave's little Ford Transit van or whatever it is. This little van comes pulling in. Beep, beep. And the two like high school, they were older than that, but they were just look really young. They jump out of there and throw their trays out. People came. It was kind of again a kind of that outdoor barn wedding. So people came down out of the barn, grabbed their paper plate and filled it up with their stuff. And once everyone went through, they threw the stuff back in. Beep beep, and they're gone.
Sometimes I wonder if that's more about just what they like.
In that case, it was because the bride and groom. I did a
graduation party 2 years ago, a year ago, something like that. And it's funny because his parents, I did their wedding, and he was born a year after I did their wedding, and now I'm doing his grad party. But he wanted Panda Express. That's what he wanted. They said, "You have anything you want?" He's like, "I want Panda Express." So they had Panda Express cater, or they didn't really cater. They just went and bought big pans of the stuff at Panda Express and brought it in. But it was about what he wanted. That was his comfort food. So
yeah. And 20 years ago, granted, Panda Express wasn't there, but you wouldn't have done something like that. I mean, that one or two person you heard had, they had they had McDonald's do their wedding. I mean, that made, in some cases, national news because no one does that. And now with today's generation, I don't think that's out of the unusual or out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
This is just something we do.
I just want to send a shout out to Scott Russo, who's in here, who hasn't figured out what the hell we're talking about yet. I'm going to say right now, Scott, I'm going to look you right in the eye here, Scott. If you're looking for enlightenment or something that's going to just completely blow your mind and make you more money in your business, turn the channel. This is not the place to be today. We're just talking music. We're music guys. Well, we're talking about other things too, but I'm teasing. Welcome, Scott. Welcome.
Yeah, that's Scott. Scott's a good guy there from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Yeah, I prefer Panda 2, Robin. It's a little healthier than the sticky barbecue and such.
I like it all, man. But no, I mean, yeah, jeez. Um, I don't make any assumptions about anybody anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I try to recognize trends, but I don't make the assumptions when it comes to the money thing, especially. That's all a lie, man. Every time they tell you they're broke or not, something pops up, and you're like, "Hey, they paid for that."
Mm-hmm.
They told me they couldn't pay for me.
Yeah. Oh, really? All of a sudden, there's that big decoration over there, and that ice sculpture, and
Oh, we don't have a lot of money. By the way, who do you know who does photo booth and limousines and chair
yeah,
covers?
yeah. We're wanting
Looking
to
for
do
it.
kind of a walking hors d'oeuvre. Can we want Butler served? Can you know anybody? No, 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 not a bit, not a bit.
But what do you think about that? Going back to the musical journey thing.
I really think that prior to the Mobile Beat Top 200 and prior to these lists, I almost feel that we as DJs were more diverse in our musical tastes and our musical styling, and I think people hired us for our musical styling much more at that time. And I don't know how much of it was just because they hired us because of our music collection we had, and
I think a lot of it was that.
or if the two were just so tight that my style of play was the songs I liked and I bought those songs. Whereas once we get that the top 200, the Mobile Beat and the Platinum series, and we got all these DJ compilations. I mean, there were songs in there that I heard DJs from around the country that were like, yeah, we play that song all the time. It's like, oh, I've never played it.
Right. You know, the one that blew my mind that I always found in those collections that I've never played is Ottawa's Hands Up. I've never played that song.
Yep, I haven't either.
And the other one I've never played is Stevie Wonder, My Eyes Don't Cry, the Detroit Electric Slide. I always saw those on the collection too. Must be regional, not my thing. But yeah, I mean, it kind of homogenized it all. It was a cool tool to have, but it really did. Previously, I think people might hire us because we had a better understanding of music than the next guy. Because, okay, well, I know I really like rock, and my friend really likes R&B, and my mom really likes country, but this guy knows it all, so he's going to be able to handle all of us. I don't think they think in those terms anymore. I think they feel like, oh, well, you can download it. That's just the bottom line. No one had to go out and search for a tune. It's just there. You can grab it. So, yeah, I mean, it may devalue me a little bit, and I mean, I move on, I evolve, but yeah, there was a time when that was a big deal. How many titles do you bring? You know,
how many titles, and I think at that time, because we didn't have the proven songs, the top 200. We would have the songs that we knew how to work with, and we would be doing mixes and the blending and the flow based on the songs we work with. I mean, as an example, ELO, it was a very common play song in my set back then.
Really?
And,
what were you playing?
Don't
Bring Me Down?
Rock and Roll is King. Both of them would be there, but Rock and Roll is King would be more. And I knew how to set that song up, and I was using songs that didn't make the top 200 to get that to that point, and it went over very, very well. And I'm sure the right crowd today it would, but because I've gotten so much into basically playing the hits over and over again, because I can go to any number of request pages and look, oh, here's the top 50 wedding songs that DJs play, and then the brides are like, oh yeah, I want this one, this one, and this one, and this one. Oh yeah, so we'll have the Love Shack and the standards over and over and over again.
I remember a time when I was doing this before Electric Boogie got popular.
Okay.
And the song's been around for a very long time, but it kind of got popular in the mid-90s, maybe?
Yep. That's when it really came on strong, yeah.
Right. I always used to religiously play the Groove Line by Heatwave. And that was the song that I would teach people to line dance to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm convinced that probably less than half of my audience had ever heard that song before.
Right.
Yet there was a dance to it, and someone got excited about it, so they came out to it. And I think that was a big deal. 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 I think that was a big de I haven't played that song in a long time.
Yeah.
I played it at a Christmas party, I think 2 years ago, because they were doing the old people versus the young people.
Mm-hmm.
And the young people did the wobble. And the old people were like, well, how can we show them? I was like, oh, I'll do the groove line for you. Like, oh, perfect. And they went out and did, it's the same freaking dance for every song,
Pretty much.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, back, dip. It's the same thing. Yeah. So but that was the tune. But again, I don't think most people knew it. They just would dance to it because I showed them a dance to it.
Mm-hmm.
I always liked the song. I liked the song when it came out. Thought it was hot.
Just looking. Tragically Hip.
Yeah, what was their tune?
I'm not even sure. Sound Obsession. What's their main tune? I know I have.
There was a tune that they did.
They had one that was a pretty. But I can't think of it off the top of my.
Well, Jimmy's saying Summer 90 was Electric Slide. It was recorded even earlier than that, but it didn't get popular until later. At least it's not everywhere.
Yeah.
It was well into the 90s. There are certain songs that used to take a lot longer to travel than they do now. Now we have internet, so it travels a lot faster. But there was a time when music was regional and radio was regional. So maybe you heard something on your station that no other station was playing. There are songs that I like, and I have a really hard time finding because they were local bands, and I would just hear them on the local station.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, how come nobody has this? Well, because nobody else heard it.
New Orleans
nobody else knows what you're talking about. I don't know.
Caught in the summer of 1990.
Now, maybe in New York or New Jersey, but not in the Midwest.
No, it was beyond. And I think Jimmy probably at that time would have been in that New York area.
Yeah, I mean, things always happen quicker on the coast, especially the East Coast. Sometimes the West Coast is actually a little behind. But yeah, the East Coast things tend to happen a little quicker. But the song goes back to like 84, 85. So it took a long time for it to happen. Google that, Jimmy, because that song is older than hell.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while to get everywhere. At any rate. Yeah, see, somebody mentioned The Stroll by the Diamonds. I've never done well with that thing. I don't get it.
I had that one wedding where the mother of the groom, and she and her friends did the stroll, and they strolled across the dance floor and did this.
That had to have been like the 1950s equivalent of Watch Me A or something. You know, it had to have been.
Yeah, it was probably about that. It wasn't that exciting, but for them it was like, this is what we have to do. What
was the other one that was just like, how are people dancing to this one? What the hell? Lean With It, Rock With It. I mean, that had to have been the 1950s version of Lean With It, Rock With It.
Yeah.
Where nobody got it unless you were just a teenager and you liked it. Or a young girl who wishes she was still a teenager.
Probably.
Who wishes she was still a teenager.
Yeah, she wants to be cool.
Yeah.
She wants to be cool.
Because the song just goes nowhere, and the vocals are like almost scary, depressing, and I don't see where you could flip the way they strolling. It's kind of creepy.
There we go. Released in 1982. That's what I was thinking. It's like I thought it was in the early 80s when it. Jimmy found Google. Yay, Jimmy and Google.
Yeah. Told you the songs are old and dirt, really old, but it didn't hit the no.
It didn't make our play until the early 90s.
There were recently still places that I would go. Recently, I'm talking within the last year or two, I would play the Cupid Shuffle and they didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
It was never did anything.
I think we're getting to the point now where, for the longest time at DJs doing these things in schools, the kids knew all of that. Now when they're at this year's dances, they knew the wobble, and they had a couple of others they knew, but they never had no idea what the cha-cha slide was, which really surprised me. There were a couple, but most of them were like, oh, so then they do their group dance to it, and yet some of the kids requested it, which was really just kind of, why would you request the song if you guys don't know the dance to it?
Yeah.
That's a head scratcher.
We don't know what.
Oh, we're going all the way down to Australia tonight. Yay! Cool, cool. So yeah, that's one of my laments is when we had those compilation CDs, and I think the other lament I have is on computer. There's so many things I love with the digital side of it, but that tactile going through and looking at album covers and saying, oh yeah, that album cover, you look at it and you automatically remember, okay, there's the top song, and then there's the second song. With that third song, I can do something really cool with that because I can set it up with this song and I can use it here and it can take them to here.
Yeah.
And I just miss that. I don't miss it enough to actually go back to carrying all those CDs, mind you.
Yeah.
But there is something cool. Even just my few little albums I've got back there is I'm pawing through those with talking to the things with the kids and such, and yeah, this album, this is back when we bought this CD, it was the first version of it, and boy oh boy, this was a great thing that whatever.
It was great for people with ADD because it gave us something to do between songs.
It's
like sorting. Oh, I'll put that one on. Oh, no, I changed my mind. Put this one on. And then there was also like when the CDs came around, it was kind of cool because, all right, what I can do is I could put these two CDs in. I can bounce back and forth, I think 5 times before I can switch them.
Yep.
If I wanted to. It's a challenge. I'm going to see if I can do it. And that pushed me to do something interesting with the music that was on there. And I would, and it would work. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there were numerous nights. It's like, oh yeah, I've got a nice stretch in these two discs, and
yeah. I was mentioning Scratchpad. I that was one of our DJ shops in town.
Uh-huh.
I was in there 2 or 3 times. There was nothing in there for me.
DJ CDs from Scratchpad. I wonder if those were.
Those were usually like a lot of it was.
Is that remix set that was out there, which was...
No, Scratchpad was a store.
Yeah, but if they were selling DJ CDs, I wonder if they were selling like the Factor set.
They sold a lot of things. We used to get a lot of stuff from the DJs in Chicago, like Bobby D and Julian Jumpin' Perez and Bad Boy Bill. They would do their mixes, and you could buy them and play them. I used to like to listen to them, but I never really found a use for them on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's talking about that.
Yeah, that was. There's a couple of audio shops in Minneapolis that used to make compilation discs.
You were telling me about those guys, and they got busted.
They got busted and such, but yeah,
you busted them.
No, I didn't bust them. The RIAA did.
Well, yeah, but you wrote the article about, hey, it was really cool. I bought this bootleg CD here.
I'm not going
to get busted.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that. I'm just. It just happened. I'm just saying. Oh. Fun stuff. So yeah, that's to a point now. As I'm getting ready later this summer, I've got a couple of weddings, and between doing some weird things and where we go camping and such, playing some of these deeper cut music services off the internet and such, it's like I'm enjoying that experience of listening to songs that we don't commonly hear, and once in a while it's like, what is this song? I mean, there have been numerous times I'm pulling out SoundHound and getting, it's like, what is this? It's familiar, but I don't know the song. I've never played it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm enjoying this kind of musical journey in my own personal life. But then I get to, the first day of wedding, and here I am back to, playing Elvis and Bob Seger and Tony Basil, all the because that's what you played at my cousin's wedding, and we loved the music you played it there, so we want you to do the same thing for ours.
Exact same thing.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Exact same thing.
Heading to Atlantic City early. Saturday the 12th. No, Lori and I will be coming in on Sunday the 13th.
Let's see. Styx and REO Speedwagon with Don Felder.
I'd go see a Styx and REO event, but yeah, not enough to come in the day.
Not early. Atlantic City early.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got our Atlantic City time.
So I made a post on my Facebook wall, and I was asking this question, and I wasn't trying to make a hate post. It wasn't about hate. But what had happened was I drove out to my parents the other day, and when I'm in the car, I listen to what I want to listen to. When other people are in the car, I don't force them to listen to what I want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
It may not make sense to them. So for some reason, I thought it would be a great idea to put on the Classic Rewind channel, which is classic hits.
Yeah.
And I did. And we had probably about a 45-minute drive there, 45-minute drive back. I know I heard 5 Steve Miller Band songs. And I'm thinking to myself, I never have to hear this again. Like ever. What I mentioned earlier in the show. Because I've heard it. It's embedded, it's rhetoric. I don't hate Steve Miller. He's from Milwaukee. He's a guy who represents the city. But I'm done. I don't need to hear this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people were listing other things that they didn't like or didn't want to hear anymore. I think an exercise like that kind of lets us know, what aren't we mentioning? What are we forgetting about?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the tracks we should be playing. Those are the kind of tracks I think we should be focusing on. Because basically what we're doing at every wedding is the equivalent of Steve Miller Band.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Really, it is.
It's necessary. It's necessary for your dance floor. But, John, if you came up with something that and you're pretty confident other people know, but it's not on the tip of your tongue, that's what you incorporate into your set.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you put into your library and you put into rotation and try it,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's in getting into an example would be, if somebody comes up and requests a Def Leppard song, of course, your go-to is Pour Some Sugar on Me. But if you've got that right crowd, it's kind of fun to go to Photograph or Rock of Ages or something that's a little different. AC, very common in the upper Midwest to people, can you play some AC/DC, man? It'll rock the crowd. Well, they're probably looking for You Shook Me All Night Long, as we all know.
Or Thunderstruck.
There's definitely ways to go and to go a little bit deeper and have some fun with that. But you have to have the crowd, because there's times where you're looking at that crowd and it's like, this is basically the top hits crowd, and if I go anything deeper than one or two of the, their first song or their second song, they're going to have absolutely no idea of what this is, and those crowds actually make me sad now.
I understand. You make me sad too. It's like walking into a Kmart. To me, it's like walking into Sears.
Yeah.
Oh God. It's still here. Haven't torn it down yet. Haven't changed it.
It hasn't changed the thing yet. We still have the blue light over there. We still have the big crescent wrench over there on the wall, and really ugly lingerie over there, and that's and that part gets kind of disappointing.
I understand your pain though. I understand, but I don't get bitter about it.
So we've got parades. Lori's been working on getting to. She wants to have the Hometown News have a parade. For those of you who don't know, Lori runs the local newspaper here, and it covers 10 communities. That's what I do on Thursday mornings. Is I go and I deliver newspapers to these communities, basically to get me out of the house. Otherwise, I'd just sit here behind a camera all day and do nothing. So that's what I do. But she wants to now go to these different communities in there when they have their parades and do some things. So it's like, okay, cool. So we'll do the parade, but obviously our booth is going to have music. But now it's a booth that doesn't have to have DJ music. If you're seeing the difference I'm trying to make here,
right?
Is we can now do something that's a little bit different and maybe something that would be like, oh, I remember that kind of thing. I want to surprise people with the music that is played on the parade route. I don't want to have Rock Around the
Twist
Clock,
and Shout,
Twist and Shout, and the latest one from whoever. No, I want to try to go out there and play something that's going to be more of that surprise song.
Right.
With that being said, when we get into we have one event that they have us, and we've done this a few times, they have us follow right behind a color guard. But when you're following right behind a color guard and you're going down Main Street the first time, you're playing patriotic music because the flag is ahead of you. And you can't really do much of anything else with that. But beyond
Born in the USA.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's we do this. We've done the Star Spangled Banner because they requested that to start the parade, and then it goes from that to something else, and then Lee Greenwood is in that first run down the strip, and then after that we can have some fun on the way back. But
do "Rockin' the USA" by John Cougar.
That's actually one that I like to do quite a bit. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that tune.
I mean, if you have to do one, that would be a good one.
Oh yeah.
Or "Living in the USA" by Linda Ronstadt, or something they're not expecting you to play.
That's the thing, is you want to go just a little bit deeper. Like people are like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Right.
And that's what I want to do. So I haven't figured out what exactly that playlist is going to be. I've got, I think, 2 weeks before our first debut of the hometown newsmobile going through the parade. She's got all the shirts and everything printed up for the kids, so it's going to be like the whole crew is going to be driving along and throwing candy and such.
You're talking about parades. It's making me think about carnivals, and it's making me think about last weekend. There was a parade in the town my parents live in, and every Father's Day in the park, there's like the carnival comes to town. It's the tilt-a-whirl and all that crap.
Oh, nice.
And I used to take Stevie there, when she was little. That's what we did on Father's Day. We'd go to this carnival, and she'd go on kiddie rides, or we'd go on rides together, whatever, And there was a car show there. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
We used to do that. Drove past it. But it just kind of reminds me, with carnivals, you get carnies. And I think there's a deal with carnies where one of the fringe benefits of being a carny when you're running that tilt-a-whirl is you can play whatever music you want while the tilt-a-whirl's running, very loud, on something that obviously only has a mid-horn left on it. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? And if you had to put money on the songs, like, okay, what are the odds? It's going to be one of like 2 songs, or maybe 3. Okay, you're going to have Hell's Bells by AC/DC. You're going to have Hair of the Dog by Nazareth. And you're going to have Black Dog by Led Zeppelin. Those 3 songs are going to play very loudly where your kids' ears are going to bleed. Because that's the music you want to hear when you're going to die because the guy forgot to tighten the bolts down tight enough. So I guess if we're gonna close the show, I would say, don't be a carny. Don't play what they expect. Be different. Be weird. Go the direction they didn't expect you to go. Have some fun with this. Don't be a carny.
Play Pat Boone.
Don't be tilt-a-whirl carny guy. Show up with a system that sounds great and play a tune they never expected you to play.
Yeah.
If you've got tattoos from here to your toes, and you got 3 teeth in your head, and you're wearing a T-shirt that's basically a Confederate flag, be weird and play Party in the USA. Just be weird and do it. Because they don't expect that, but they still know it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm tired, I guess. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll wrap things up. Thank you guys for being with us tonight and hanging out and just kind of sharing some things in the chat room. If you're watching this after the fact and you missed the chat, there's some kind of fun songs and such they were sharing in the chat room tonight that we didn't cover. So, again, thank you guys for being with us. We'll be back again next week talking about more stuff.
You'll be home in time next week?
I will be. Monday, I will be coming back Monday. So we've got the... Actually, some people got to get a sneak peek of the early Monday show. And Monday morning early, if you didn't get a chance to see it while it was unfortunately live, I got a chance to sit down with Jose from ADJ. And he went through some of their new lights that they just introduced here at Infocom. So that was a really kind of a cool little video and him demonstrating some of the features and things. So that'll be next week, Monday. I'll be back late Monday night. And then Tuesday, we're back on a regular schedule. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next week. Good night, everyone.